Welcome to the Empowerment Zone, where people, power, and policy intersect. This is brought to you by the South-Dade branch of the NAACP, and I'm your host, Harold Ford. And today we have a special guest, a legend in our community, who has done a number of things on the forefront and on the front lines of making changes and advocacy within our community that have led us to where we are now. We're looking for him to lead us to the future and beyond. Today, we welcome legendary attorney, H.T. Smith.
Good morning, Harold. I'm really happy to be here, happy to talk with you today, especially at this critical time in our community, in our county, and in our country. And let me just say at the beginning, everybody knows me as H.T. Smith, but my first name is Harold. So, we're brothers with a different mother. So
Amen.
Happy to be here.
Amen. Thank you for coming. And you being a legend here in Miami, especially in the civil rights movement, and the things and the works that you've done over the years have been, unparalleled. And we are grateful for the work that you've put in. But I want the people, the family, to know, who is H.T. Smith and how did he get from point A to this current state that he's in? Well,
I'm a native Miamian. There's not many of us, but we're proud to be a native Miamian. I was born in the Christian Hospital. Christian Hospital was the hospital for black people over town in the 1940s.
Wow.
And they took me from the Christian Hospital home to our shotgun shack. And for the young people, shotgun shack was a wooden house that sits up on concrete blocks about 2 feet off the ground. I used to like that because as a little boy, I would go into the house with the rats and the roaches and the snakes and have a lot of fun under the house and see a lot of things that little boys really weren't supposed to see. And they called it a shotgun shack, young people, because you could literally shoot a shotgun through the front door and it could go straight out of the back door. For those who've been around Miami, know the street that I played on as a boy was called Bucket of Blood. And it was called Bucket of Blood because it earned that nickname.
Wow.
From the time I was in kindergarten until 12th grade, I was forced by law to attend separate, segregated second-class schools. But although the buildings were second-class, although our teachers were being paid second-class salaries, what we had was love. Our teachers loved us, and they encouraged us. They told us we were somebody. They told us to aspire for things that were fantastic and beyond the generation of our parents and our grandparents. And so I believed them. As a matter of fact, one of my big motivators was my mathematics teacher, John Shaw, who just passed away. And that people ask why I majored in math. I majored in math because I wanted to be like Mr. Shaw, who told me that I could be great and that there was greatness inside me, but that to get to the greatness, just like you get to great assets in the earth, if you want oil, you got to dig to the center of the earth. If you want gold, you got to go down into the mines. If you want anything that's valuable is not within the easy reach. And so they told me God has planted deep, deep inside you greatness. Are you willing to dig and work and go get it?
Amen.
And so I graduated from Mays High School. At the time, it was junior and senior.
Yes.
From 7th to 12th grade, and I applied at a white college in 1964. I still haven't heard back from them yet, but I'm patient. But historically black and tradition-rich Florida A&M welcomed me, and I got a chance, because now we're talking about the 60s, where things were really hot and heavy like they are now. I got a chance to learn who I was as a black man in America, and I learned what I could do to make a contribution to help to uplift my people. And what I did, though, was my family didn't, like most families, we didn't have a lot of money. And I was required at the time to take ROTC, Army ROTC, and I did good in it. And so they told me, you really are one of our best students in ROTC. We want to give you a full scholarship, pay room and board, give you money for books, and extra money if you would stay in ROTC for the next 2 years. I said, wow. what do I have to do? They said, well, when you graduate, you got to go to the service. And I said, the war was going on. Well, I didn't know where Vietnam was. Matter of fact, wars is what teaches us just geography. So I went and got a globe, and I was looking and I passed the whole globe, and I didn't see Vietnam. And finally I looked back, and I said, that little bitty country? Wow. Man, this war is going to be over in this semester. I'm taking the scholarship. Well, as you know, I graduated, and the war wasn't over, and they told me you got to pay us back now.
Lace them up.
Right. So I spent a year preparing to lead men in combat in Vietnam, and then I spent a year leading men in combat in the jungles of Vietnam. And so I came back, and I had a math degree, and I had a neighbor, William Johnson, who lives in South Miami.
Okay.
He just passed away, and he had a math degree, and I went across the street, tell him I was home. We hugged, and he was happy to see me back, and I said, I need you to help me get a job with my math degree, because you have one. He says, I'm going to law school. I said, what? He said, yes. I said, where? Howard? He said, no, University of Miami. I said, I haven't been gone that long, have I? University of Miami is admitting black students. He said, well, this is the first class. I said, well, I'm going to be in it. He said, well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but the class is closed. I said, no, hell, no, it's not. No, it's not. So I drove out to the law school that day in my little Volkswagen. And I drove around. I didn't know where the law school was. And I found the law school, and I went in and said to the secretary, and I said, I want to see the dean of the law school. She said, well, who are you? I said, it was then Harold. I'm Harold Smith. She said, well, sir, you do not have an appointment, one. Number two, school is opening in 2 weeks. The dean doesn't have time to see you. I said, well, I'm staying here till he sees me. She said, well, if you want to go to law school, right over there, there's an application. So I went and got the application, started filling it out, sitting there. And I looked and it said next year. So I scratched out next year and put this year. So I waited for about 2 hours, and the dean came out to humor me.
Yes.
Oh, Harold, how you doing? So he says to his secretary, I'm making up this name, Catherine, let me see his file. And she said, he didn't have a file. So he said, well, Harold, what was your score on the LSAT? Honest to goodness, I had never heard of that law school admission test, but I had enough sense not to let him know I had never heard of it. So I said, well, Dean, you seem like a gentleman. Can we go in your office and sit down and talk? He said, sure. And so I told him my life story. And I said, I've been told no my entire life until it came time to put my life on the line for my country. Not only was I told yes, I was told I could go to the front of the line. And I did. And for the last 400 days, I've been putting my life on the line for you and all the draft dodgers that you left in this school. And so when law school opens, I'm going to be in the first class, in the first row, in the first seat. And when I get out of jail, I'm coming right back to there until I graduate. He said, I never heard it put that way. So we spent 5 hours. The secretary went home and negotiated, and we agreed that I would be admitted to class before I took the law school admission test, that I had to take the next law school admission test. I had to make some very high score, and then I could stay. And if I did not make that score, then I would have to leave. But I wasn't leaving. But I passed. I took it and passed it. As a matter of fact, I found out the dean did not have the authority to even do that.
Wow.
And so he would have me come every Friday because his job was on the line, but he didn't want to make a big fuss because this was the first class of black law students. And I had PTSD, but it was undiagnosed, so I would come every day to school with my fatigues and my combat boots, and I was writing about how racist the school was, and he was saying, HT, we never let a white person come to school before they took the law school admission test. And you say we were racist? I said, well, that one time you weren't. But you have no blacks that report to you. You have no black professors. Only time I see other black people is at night when the cleaning crew comes. Didn't you want me to come here so that I could be an advocate for my people? And that's all I'm trying to do. So anyway, I get my law school admission test score, and I come in to see the dean on a Friday, and I give it to him. And he looks at it and he says, well, Harold, I've seen you now for the last 2 months. I know you have what it takes to be successful as a lawyer and as a law student. So I will help you get readmitted to law school. And I said, Dean, what are you talking about? I passed. He actually looked at it because he had already had in his mind that I was going to fail. He looked at it.
Readmitted.
And so that, right. And so that's, and I went to the public defender's office because I was the first black public defender. And then I left there. I was president of the Black Lawyers, and we said we need to start identifying other places where we can open the vaults of opportunity. And so we agreed the county attorney's office, because that was supposed to be a real first-class opportunity. And we kept asking who would do it. And when it came out to it, the only person who would do it was me. So I went over, and then I tried to throw the interview so I wouldn't get the job.
Oh, wow.
So they asked me, well, why do you think you're the most qualified to have a job in this most prestigious office, government office in Florida? And I said, I'm already at the most prestigious office in Florida, the public defender's office. And they voted against me, but the county attorney overruled them and hired me anyway. And that was good because I represented the police, and I found out where all the bodies were buried. Lord have mercy. I never lost a case. And I thought it was because I was the greatest lawyer in America. Well, I went out and started suing the police, and things were different. Then I went into private practice. Harold Long and I were the first law firm downtown. And then we started doing civil rights, criminal defense, and personal injury, and the rest is history.
Wow. And you've been at the forefront or the center of some of the most important civil rights, advocacy work here in Miami-Dade County. And I know one of the things that definitely resonates was Boycott Miami.
Yeah.
Give us a little history on that particular situation. What led you, what drove you, what motivated you? And then, for those that may not be up on their history, what the final outcome?
Yeah. Well, first of all, lawyers are trained to lead and called to serve. The question is, as a black lawyer, will you answer the call? You're definitely going to be called. And so I was called to lead, and so I read about this man back in 1986, this man named Nelson Mandela, who I had never heard about in school. And I was enamored. And so I joined and led the Free South Africa movement in South Florida. And I led that from 1986 until 1990. And what did we do? We got all the governmental agencies in South Florida to divest from companies doing business in South Africa.
Correct.
We got them stop selling South African lobster tail. Matter of fact, my favorite apple is called a granny apple. It's a green apple. I didn't know it came from South Africa. Stop that. And we did a tremendous amount of things. But to be honest with you, most of us in the movement did not believe that Nelson Mandela would come out of jail alive. And so now that's 4 years already I've done that. And February 11th, 1990, I woke up and looked on television, and there was Nelson Mandela next to his wife, Winnie Mandela, coming out of prison. And I was saying, wow, man, because I've got a family, I've got a law firm, and this was a tremendous amount of stress to have to lead this movement for this many years. And so it was like, wow, I can now focus on my family, focus on my law firm. And so Nelson Mandela in 1990, after he got out, decided to come to the United States to show support and to thank organizations, individuals, and institutions that had supported the Free South Africa movement and supported the African National Congress, which was his political party. Because the United States government was supporting the apartheid white government. But he wanted to say, hey, I know what your government position is, but I want to thank you. So he came and he went to Detroit, and it was the stadium packed. He went to Atlanta and laid a wreath on Martin Luther King's grave. He was the third or fourth person to speak to a joint session of Congress. He went all around. And then when he got to Miami, our Cuban-American politicians basically said, you thanked Castro for helping you. Unless you denounce Castro, you're not welcome here.
Right.
And so Nelson Mandela said, well, first of all, your enemy is not necessarily my enemy. And you got to appreciate that we have different constituents in different situations. Man, we were helped by Castro, and it would be the height of ingratitude for me not to thank him. So the city of Miami had made a proclamation for Mandela, and they took it back. They had a key to this. They said, we're not going to give him a key to the city. And so did Miami Beach, et cetera, and so did Dade County. And so this happened June 28th of 1990. And so there was no email or social media at the time, so we started getting faxes from all over the country saying, what the hell is wrong with you all down in Miami? You mean to tell me you're going to snub Nelson Mandela? And then they asked the main question, and what are y'all going to do about it? And so people started saying, if Nelson Mandela's not welcome to Miami, I'm not welcome. So we convened the black lawyers, and we said, well, one of the things we can do about it is that we have a convention coming to Miami in 1993. Let's cancel that convention. We're not going to bring people here to a place where black people are not respected,
right,
where black leaders are not respected, and our money. And so we took a month and started doing our investigations, just like we do when we get a case. First thing you do, you investigate the case. We found out that the year before, which was 1989, the Convention and Visitors Bureau had made $5 billion, and 20% of that came from black conventions and visitors. 20% of $5 billion,
wow,
that's $1 billion.
1.25.
Right. And so we said, hey,
1.2.
We're going to start a boycott. And we studied the first boycott, which was in Ireland, and all the boycotts, and Montgomery bus boycott, the things that worked and didn't work. And we kicked off the boycott. We had no money. We had no office. My office was really the office. We had no employees. And so we said, we have to be strategic. And so one of the first things we did was called semantic infiltration. Semantic infiltration is making your opponent use your terms and your words. So how do we do it? We said, what are we going to name ourselves? Let's name ourselves Boycott Miami. So every time the media or our opponents say Boycott Miami, they are saying what we want the people to do. So today, H.T. Smith, the Boycott Miami is holding a press conference. Boycott Miami is doing this. Boycott Miami. So what they're doing is they didn't realize it. They were being our mouthpiece, our advocates, our news about Boycott Miami campaign. Additionally, and this has I got to be sensitive about how I say this. The power in the black community is with the church. But this was a battle. The black community had never won a battle against the powers of the money and the political play.
Right.
Preachers are in the forgiveness business. And so this was not a time for forgiveness. So we went to the major preachers around town and we told them, look, we need your support, but not inside the leadership of this organization. What we're going to need you to do is, one, every Sunday in your bulletin that you pass, that you tell everybody what happened that week.
Gotcha.
Secondly, at some point in time, we're going to need some contributions for you to raise money. And they said, okay, we'll support you. And then we went to the political leaders, because politicians are in the compromise business.
Right.
You can't compromise when people do not feel you're equal, because you always giving up. Right now, if you took FAMU and you merged FAMU with University of Florida, you got University of Florida.
Right. Because
one is too much bigger than the other.
Right. Exactly.
And so the politicians said, great. And so we began the boycott movement, and before we could even get started good, organizations started saying, I'm supported. And the key was that we had a hook. If we said we were having this boycott because of the treatment of black people was poor in terms of housing, in terms of loans for business, in terms of police brutality, et cetera, blacks in other places were like, well, we have the same problem. It's not anything unique.
Right.
It's not anything to get you excited about. It's not anything to make you have the passion to fight.
Mm-hmm.
We said, these people here are so disrespectful of us and our money and our leaders that they snubbed the great Nelson Mandela. Whoa, what?
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up. And so fraternities and sororities. Well, the very first day, 5 organizations said that they were going to support the boycott and not come to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were afraid that it might not be any others, so we only announced one. Who you think? Well, you see, the NAACP local chapter was supporting us, but the NAACP national doesn't do boycott. At least that time, they didn't do boycott.
Right.
Adora Inweezy, whose name then was Johnny McMillan,
Yes.
was one of the big supporters.
Yes.
Matter of fact, she got in trouble about supporting the boycott. So that was really the first off-the-record support, and it gave us credibility because nobody knew who we were.
Right.
Everybody knows the NAACP. And so what we started doing was every week we would announce another national organization, a sorority, a fraternity, a black professional organization like accountants or lawyers, et cetera. And then in the churches would announce it, put it in the announcement, and the Miami Times did a fantastic job. If you look at the Miami Times newspapers from June of 1990 until until May of 1993, we were the boycott was in the newspaper almost every week. Front page about what's going on, et cetera.
Okay.
And so the first 6 months, the business community wouldn't talk to us, because they know we don't have any money because they own the banks. We didn't have any offices because they own the offices.
Right.
We had no employees. Said this is going to peter out. What they did not know is we had made a commitment for 5 years that we were willing to, because I had done 4 years in the Free South Africa movement. We want to stick for 5 years. So after 6 months, the Convention and Visitors Bureau started saying, hey, look, our leads are drying up. Blacks usually come in the summertime and they spend more and stay longer. Most of the black organizations, it's not like just a convention, it's like a family vacation.
Right.
And they said, hey, y'all got to do something. So they tried to talk to us, and we said, hey, you wouldn't talk to us for 6 months, so call us back in 6 months. And they would say, whoa. Well, to make a long story short, about a year out, the Miami Herald did an analysis, and it was $52 million worth of canceled conventions, because you can identify that, right?
Right.
During the entire boycott, not one black organization had a convention. In other words, confirmed that they would have a convention. They didn't get one. Now, what we did not understand at the time was they were calling this a black boycott. They did not want to say it's a black-led boycott. They said black boycott. But you see, blacks are in almost every organization.
Yeah.
So when the teachers said, okay, let's go to Miami, they wouldn't say we are supporting the boycott, but say, well, hey, they're having problems. Let's go to Broward. Let's go to Palm Beach.
Right.
Let's go to Orlando. So they started seeing all these big white organizations not coming. And that's led to the beginning of the negotiations, because they said, hey, okay, now they see us, at least in terms of this particular project that we got doing, and at this time as equals. And so they said they want to negotiate. And we said, well, before we negotiate, we got to come up with the terms of the negotiation. We don't need to do that. I said, well, okay, who can call a meeting? Who can determine when the meeting's over? When are we going to determine when the boycott's over? What are those criteria? We got to do that. It took us 6 weeks to negotiate. And I wish I know you're going to talk about this. I'd have brought you. And so we have the terms of the negotiation.
Gotcha.
One of the first things was, if we find out that you're trying to play blacks against blacks, the negotiations are over. So that we finished the negotiations. Okay, if we finished that, they said, let's negotiate. Well, we're not ready to negotiate yet. So what do you mean? I said, because you all have all the information. The Convention and Visitors Bureau has all the information about what jobs are available, what contracts are available, what services you needed, etc. And so we're going to submit interrogatories like you do in a lawsuit and ask you. That's how we found the black person who built the black-owned hotel. We said, tell us anyone that you know black in the country who has ever been involved in the building of hotels, et cetera, or managing hotels, or who you believe have the capacity. And that's how we found out about Peoples, who was in Washington, D.C. None of us knew him. So, quick story. So we say, well, we're going to have the first meeting. We said, when I said, isn't it going to be in the black community? They wanted to meet downtown. I said, no. We met at the Trinity CME Church. Do you know what it is? Trinity CME Church is by Garcia's restaurant, by the river, Garcia's Casablanca restaurant.
Under the area.
Next time you go there, you look across the street, you'll see a little black, it's a black church. It's one of the few places in Miami that has a basement. So we meet down in the basement, and we cook fried chicken and candy yams and collard greens and cornbread and mac and cheese. And we all ate. We finished eating and said, well, let's get started. Jim Batten, who was a fantastic leader, but we're on the opposite side now, is their leader, and he's got 6 other people, and I got 6 other people with me. I said, our first demand, and he didn't like that word. I could see his eyes flutter. We want $10 million toward the development of the first black-owned convention quality hotel, and we want it built on Miami Beach, on the ocean. Oh, if you could have looked in his eyes. And he gave me a speech for like 3 minutes about, we didn't come for pie in the sky, and things that we talk about, we're going to do, and it's not da-da-da. I said, well, you're starting off on a bad foot. You calling our request for a black-owned hotel pie in the sky? You know any hotels in Miami? So he looked down at one of his people and said, when is the last time a hotel was built in Miami Beach? He said 27 years ago. I said, well, ask your sidekick, when was the last time a black-owned hotel was built? And obviously there was none. So he said, what's number 2? I said, there ain't no number 2 till you deal with number 1. And he looked down and said, well, let's have a caucus. You have another room. So we put them in another room. I go into the bathroom, and there's 2 stalls. And who would come in the bathroom but Jim Batten? Tall, handsome, from North Carolina with an accent. And I thought I heard him say, H.T. Smith, a real nigga. And we're both using a urinal. I turned to him, and I almost wet him up. I turned to him and he said, yeah, H.T. Smith, a real enigma. I didn't know what an enigma was. I didn't have a Google machine then. I couldn't wait to get home to find out, what has this white man called me? An enigma, someone that's hard to figure out. So make a long story short, we were able to, because we want to talk about some other things. One, we were able to build the first convention quality hotel built by blacks in America. Now you would think what happened in New York, L.A., Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, places like that, in America.
Wow.
Secondly, one of the things that our goal was to have single-member districts for the city of Miami, for Miami-Dade County School Board, and for the county. We were the ones that initiated that. And as a matter of fact, as far as the county is concerned, we intervened in the lawsuit with Betty Ferguson as our plaintiff. Okay. And the case went before Judge Donald Graham, a distinguished black judge, and we went from 1 person out of 9 in the county commission to 4 out of 13. And they were elected by blacks. When you had 1 out of 9, it was countywide, so they were elected by whites. So you could only be so powerful and passionate in your agitation. We found out that the roles for waiters and waitresses were there were no blacks on it. Now I know we can do waiters and waitresses. We integrated that. We brought in something called we started the Black Executive Forum, the Black Fellows, and a whole lot of things. Now it's scholarships, fellowships, internships. The Miami-Dade Convention and Visitors Bureau started something called the Black Hospitality Initiative.
Okay.
Because we needed to have all of these things under one roof. And if you go on the Black Hospitality Initiative website, they lay out a tremendous number of things. But the thing I'm most pleased with was we were able, in addition to the single member districts, we were able to get the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce to match large white businesses with small black businesses and send business to them, and we had the small black business actually report on a yearly basis of what the type of business that and the amount of money that they made.
Gotcha.
But there's a tremendous amount of other things, but that the boycott brought to Miami. But I want to talk about some other stuff as well.
Okay, and I know we're running low on time, so I definitely, and we got to have you back because I know there's a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information that you can definitely share with the young attorneys coming up. And one of the things I want to touch on before we close it out is, what advice would you give attorneys today to deal with today under the current climate today as it relates to civil rights advocacy work? What advice would you give young attorneys and how they should prepare themselves to advocate for not just their community, but for democracy?
Well, first of all, young attorneys, the very first thing that you must do is to master your craft. And fortunately today we have webinars and seminars that are available. And so you got to constantly be getting better. Either you're getting better or you're getting beat. Secondly, you need to coordinate with civil rights organizations, and there's no organization more stalwart in civil rights than the NAACP. One of the proudest cards I have is the Golden Heritage Life membership in the NAACP.
Amen.
The first two pieces of identification that my children got was a membership card in the NAACP. So, thirdly, coordinate and work with other lawyers, black and white, who are already in the civil rights movement. And the fourth thing, you've got to learn artificial intelligence. Just the other day, I was at a seminar, and this is what happened. The lawyer said to AI, he's talking to AI, he types in and say, I had a traffic crash case, this is how it happened. Give me 400 questions to ask the other driver, and it started spitting it out immediately. Give me 400 questions to ask about injuries. It spit it out right away. The case is in front of Judge Harold Ford. Give me the background of Judge Harold Ford. Spit it out. How has Harold Ford ruled on civil rights cases involving police brutality? How many cases of qualified immunity has he dismissed cases because of that? How long does it take before he will rule on police brutality cases and stuff? This is the future.
Yes.
And a lot of our civil rights lawyers are solo or in small firms, but they're going against governmental entities like the county.
Correct.
They're going against big companies like Amazon. They're already doing this. And you cannot, if you want to be successful as a passionate, powerful, persuasive advocate in civil rights, and you want to win, and that's the objective.
Amen.
You must understand and be competent in artificial intelligence. That's the future.
Amen. And Attorney Smith, I thank you just for sharing those valuable gems. Not only that, but sharing your journey with the Empowerment Zone family. And then what we want to do, like I said, we want to invite you back so that you can, again, fill in some of those additional gaps and provide some level of leadership and direction to our young attorneys. Because, again, it's woefully needed. We definitely appreciate the fight that you've put forth in the past, and look forward to your continued guidance in the future. So with that, family, thank you again for coming to the Empowerment Zone. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. God bless.